It is 6 o'clock. We are calling to order the City of Roswell Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, November 29th, 2022 at 6 p.m. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Henderson.
Here.
Commissioner McCornack.
Here.
Commissioner Aguilar.
Here.
Chair Story.
Here.
Commissioner McDaniel, Commissioner Gutierrez, and Commissioner Lazard are absent. We have 4 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Also, Steve, I believe, are you going to swear in members of the staff and the audience for us, please?
Anyone that plans on speaking this evening, if you would please stand and raise your right hand. And do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under penalty of perjury? Say, I do. Please be seated.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, members of the audience. Next on our agenda would be the approval of tonight's agenda, which is the November 29th, 2022. If anybody has any excuse me, changes or questions about the agenda, if not, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda for our meeting November the 29th.
Second.
Got a motion by Steve and a second by James and Saul. Take whichever one you want to approve tonight's meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, the agenda for tonight is approved. Next on our agenda is approval of the minutes from last month's October 25th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, which was fairly brief. Did anybody have a chance to read the minutes? Have any questions or comments? If not, I would accept the motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Saul and a second by Steve to approve the minutes from the October 25th, 2022 meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Being none, we move on to the public hearing items, which is first case is 22-036, which is a request for a zone change. Could I have a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts and the land use and zoning considerations, please?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations with respect to case 22-036.
Second.
I have a motion by James and a second by Saul to waive the reading of the finding of facts and the land use and zoning considerations. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Meredith, you're up.
Good evening, Chair Story and Commissioners. We have 3 cases tonight. The first one is a request for a zone change from C2 Community Commercial to RV Park for a 9.862 acre property in the 3000 to 3100 block of West 2nd Street. It's on the south side of West 2nd Street and between 2nd and Juniper. The intent of the zone change is to develop a RV recreational park, a resort for RVs. And in July, the same owner and applicant brought forward a zone change from R1 and R4 to RV park on the property to the south between Alameda and Juniper. There's a lot of vacant land surrounding this property on the south and the west under the same ownership. On the east is a collision center, zone C2. And on the north side of 2nd Street, there's undeveloped land, C2, and city-owned parkland. Here's a couple of maps. One is the Chavez County Assessor map showing two properties totaling that 9.82 acres, and the zoning map showing it's C2 with the RVP underneath that to the south.
Meredith, quick question before you move on from this. Will this case rezone both of those lots? Both
Yes,
of those tracks?
yes,
And they are the same ownership?
they are.
Okay.
These are applicant photos of the land starting from Second Street, looking to the east and the southeast. And from Second Street, looking northeast across the property toward the west, looking toward the southwest, and a view from the Juniper right-of-way, which is undeveloped, looking toward the north, toward Second Street. A good portion of this property is in the flood zone. So about 1.5 acres there in that northeast corner is in Zone X, not in a flood zone. And 8.5 approximately acres is in the AO 1-foot flood zone. So extra consideration for drainage, stormwater, grading will be required. This is an excerpt from LT Surveying's replat of Lot 7A and 7B to create just Lot 7 again. So that's just a simple replat. It's a lot consolidation.
Is that going to happen, or has that already happened, or?
It's in the works.
Okay.
So, yeah. As of today, I've received 0 protest, verbal protest, written protest, and 0 inquiries on this lot, on this project. And based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of facts surrounding land uses and regulations established in zoning ordinance and subdivision code, staff recommends approval of this case. And staff stands for questions, and we have Martine Beltran, the engineer for this project, in the house to speak in favor.
Any questions of Meredith? The only thing I have, Meredith, is in the different descriptions in the exhibits, you said it and you changed it in your presentation, but in everywhere else it talks about the property is located in 30,000 to 3,100 block between West Second.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what you and I talked about a little bit on the phone, is that doesn't, those descriptions in the packet, I think should say between 3,000 and 3,100 West Second, like you did in your narrative on the slide. If that could be changed in whatever goes into the minute packages.
Okay. On this slide here, it has, on the east side is the collision center at 2912 West 2nd. So just to give you context of where it is. Oops.
You go through those a little quicker. All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of case 22-036? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martin Beltran. I'm with Pro Solutions, and I'm here on behalf of the owner, Gary Singh. And we propose to make an RV park in that area, clear up some of that empty land, and create some positive drainage and some good drainage locations as well.
Is there going to be access from Second Street?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming you've already made contact with the DOT?
NMDOT has not been contacted yet. We're still in the design process, so, but that's coming up pretty quick here.
Well, good luck with that.
We're dealing with them in other cases, but, yeah.
Any questions of the applicant from anybody up here? Steve, James? Anything else you wish to say, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in favor of case 22036? Being none, is there anyone wishing to speak against case 22-036? Against this case, now's your chance. Being none, anybody got any questions or staff or anybody? Engineer, anybody? Saul? No. Good. If not, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of facts surrounding land uses and regulations established by the zoning ordinance and the subdivision code, I move that we approve case number 22036 for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Steve and a second by Saul to approve case 22-036, the zone change. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Being none, motion passes. You guys are certainly welcome. If you're here for that case, you're certainly welcome to leave if you would like. Or you can stay and listen to our solar cases if you want to.
Missing out the fun.
Next, we will move on to case number 22-037, which is a special use permit for a community, solar facility. I would accept a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations with respect to case 22-037.
Second.
I have a motion by James and a second by Steve to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations for case 22-037. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Meredith?
Good evening, Chair Story, Commissioners. This is a case for a special use permit in the R2 zoning district for a community solar project in the 4500 block of West Alameda Street, on the south side of Alameda, between the Relief Route and Eisenhower Road. The request is for approval of a special use permit for a 5 megawatt photovoltaic community solar facility on 35.8 acres of the 44.127 acre tract. And here is a preliminary site plan showing the solar project, the solar array, and also there's a power station to the east of Eisenhower Road. The applicant is Impact Power Solutions, and they're requesting the special use permit. And the applicant's intent is to submit an application to the New Mexico's Community Solar Program for this location. The property is currently zoned R2 and requires a special use permit for public utilities. There's a lot of vacant land surrounding this property as well. There's R2 and R3 zoning, most of which is vacant or undeveloped. There is one house on the north side and some residential properties on the east. The Relief Route separates the property from the salvage yard on the west. Here you can see the outline of the property with a star on it, the 44 acres. And it's right at the edge of the boundary of the city and county there on the south. The zoning map, you can see it's R2 and surrounded by R2 as well. The Chavez County map, you can see there's several residential lots on that north, very north edge of the property, but they have not been developed. And Indian Mesa subdivision is north of those, on the north side of Alameda. Again, we have a large area of flood zone, AO, the 1 foot zoning for approximately 35 acres and 9 acres in Zone X on the southeast corner of this property. So again, extra consideration for drainage, grading, stormwater, including plans, permits, flood elevation certificates, etc., will be required. As of today's date, I've had 0 written protests, 0 verbal protests, and 1 inquiry, and that inquiry was not opposed to this. They just had some questions. And based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of fact surrounding land uses and regulations established in the zoning ordinance, staff recommends that Planning and Zoning Commission consider approval of zoning case 22037 special use permit for this 5 megawatt community solar facility. And staff stands for questions. And let's see. Jesse Diamond is here with as the applicant for this project to speak in favor.
One question, just curious, Louis, is that portion of Alameda, is that paved, chip sealed? Is it improved?
The portion going from Eisenhower to the west,
Yeah.
it's paved. That's the south access to Indian Hills.
Oh, okay. And is that blue line, the city limits line, is that pretty accurate, you think? If so, it's going right through the highway department's trailers up there for their inspectors. We need to get them off of their property.
That is correct, because the property to the west of the relief route, the Owen property is within the city limits.
Yeah. Do you see that part, though, that goes through the DOT yard there? Goes right through the middle of where they keep their trailers.
It's correct.
I just thought that's kind of interesting. Any questions of Meredith? Thank you, Meredith. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of case 22-037? Sir, would you state your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name is Jesse Diamond. I'm with Impact Power Solutions, also known as New Energy Equity. Our address is 2670 Patton Road in Roswell, Minnesota, 55431. Thank you for having me here tonight. Unfortunately, my wife had to plow the 6 inches of snow we got tonight, so probably a little bit in the doghouse, but it's a lot nicer here. As Meredith mentioned, this is a 5 megawatt AC community solar garden. The facility produces and provides power at the distribution level. That means that this power goes to the community. So it's going to the local homes and businesses. Those homes and businesses can subscribe to this power at a discounted rate. Generally, it's about 10%. And that 10% is estimated to save on this facility about $4 million in the first 25 years of operation. So I'm here to answer your questions. Let me know what you want to know.
Anybody got any questions? Steve? James? No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Came a long way. You should have stayed and shoveled.
It's really pretty down here. The drive down was amazing, so I do get out of the house once in a while.
Yeah. Well, we had a nice day today, so except for the wind. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of case 22-037? Being none, is there anyone wishing to speak against 22-037? Anyone against this case? Being none, any questions from the commissioners to anybody?
Inquiry? Anybody, is somebody with an inquiry here? there somebody here that had an inquiry? It's on. Oh. Somebody here that had an inquiry or? No, nobody here?
No, they just talked to me on the phone today.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Just one thing, the Exhibit F that you've got, that's written for the Second Street one. I'm sure you're gonna revise that to reflect Alameda and for this case, because that would apply to this case as well, correct? Exhibit F, the conditions of approval.
There should be two of them. So the one that's tabbed in your packet is for the second case.
Well, this is 22037, so this one says impact, which one are you looking at?
I was
Should
on,
be
I was on
page
this.
51 of 133.
Oh, okay.
It talks about,
Sorry, I was in the wrong place.
oh, here it is. That's a different. All right, well, I think we're all good up here. Anybody got any questions? If not, I would accept a motion. Does this, Meredith, Kevin, does this go to council or any committee, or is this just through us? It's on you, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, based on the land use and zoning considerations, finding of fact surrounding land uses and regulations established by the zoning ordinance and subdivision code, I move to approve case 22037 SUP in the R2 residential district to construct and operate a community zoning facility, draft conditions approval and Exhibit F.
Second?
We have a motion by Steve and a second by James to approve case number 22-037. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Case passes. Next, we move on to case 22-038, which is also a request for a special use permit to construct a community solar facility in a separate location, similar area, separate location. If I could have a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts and the land use and zoning considerations.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations with respect to case 22-038.
Second.
I have a motion by James and a second by Steve to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations for 22-038. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Meredith?
Chair Story, Commissioners. So our third zoning case tonight is another special use permit for a different community solar project on the 3700 block on the north side of West 2nd Street, east of the relief route. This is a site plan, a preliminary site plan for the proposed solar. The 17-acre parcel is on, it has two zoning districts on it. The first 330 feet approximately along the frontage of 2nd Street is zoned C2, community commercial, and the remainder of the property is zoned R3 residential.
Is it owned by the same owner?
It's owned by the same owner. And that owner's online if you have any questions. The applicant is Roswell Plains Solar LLC, and they're requesting a special use permit for a 4.3 megawatt photovoltaic community solar facility on the 17.5 acre privately owned tract of land. The applicant's intent is to submit an application to New Mexico's Community Solar Program for this location, and the portion of the property zoned R3 residential requires a special use permit for public utilities. Currently, in the C2 zoning district, it's a use by right. And I'll just go back. Let's see. Okay. Again, this property is surrounded by vacant land. To the north is in the county, owned by the city. There's, on the south side of the R3 zoned property is a C2 property that will not be developed except for about 110 feet of this project, but about 200 feet of the C2 will fronting 2nd Street will be reserved for future commercial development. Mr. Fireworks is next door to the west, as is Solitaire. And east of the city is Roswell parkland and some privately owned land fronting 2nd Street with some power poles.
How come we have land in the city that's not zoned?
That's in the county.
Huh, thought it said city.
The city-owned land in the county is not zoned.
City-owned land in the county.
Yes. It's on the north side of the county, the city boundary.
Okay.
So on the slide in front of you, there's a Chavez County Assessor map showing the property under consideration. And you can see there's a lot of vacant land around it, underutilized land around it, as well as the zoning map showing the lot with both R3 and C2 zoning. The C2 portion of the zoning is approximately 330 feet deep from the property line, from fronting 2nd Street. And they're going to reserve 220 feet of that frontage for commercial, future commercial. Again, a portion of this property is in the flood zone, AO, 1 foot, and that's just the about 3 acres of the south and southeast corner. So along 2nd Street and a little bit more up in that east corner. The solar panels, the solar array will not be developed in the flood zone. As of today's date, I've had 0 protests and 0 inquiries on this property. So based on the land use and zoning considerations, findings of fact surrounding land use and regulations established in the zoning ordinance, staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission consider approval of zoning case 22-038, a special use permit with the draft conditions of approval described in Exhibit F. And if you turn to your tab on Exhibit F, the applicant who is online, Zach Gordon, he has a presentation following my presentation here with the slides following my slides. And he's requesting a 15-foot, on page 3 of Exhibit F, 15-foot height of the solar panels at full tilt. So most of them we've seen are anywhere from 7 to 10 feet at full tilt. And Zach, are you online?
I am. I'm here, Meredith. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Do you have any questions for staff?
Commissioners, anything from Meredith? Okay, well, we'll move on, and then we'll bring on Mr. Gordon. So we'll, I'm assuming, Mr. Gordon, that you want to speak in favor of this case, if you'd like to go ahead and give us your presentation.
Okay, that would be great. Meredith, am I able to control, or are you able to put the presentation up on? First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Zach Gordon, Director of Development from Energy Management, Inc. I apologize that I couldn't be there tonight in person. Based on the holiday at the end of last week, it made travel very difficult. But happy to represent our project over the phone. We also have in the audience our consulting engineers, SWCA, represented by Kim Parker and Steph Herbert. So if there are any very technical questions, I will defer to them. So yeah, this is the this is just an introductory presentation. We can go through it pretty quickly. Meredith, can I ask you to change the slides?
Yes, you're on your
Okay,
first slide here.
Great. So this is just the table of contents. Next. So we are Energy Management, Inc. We are a energy infrastructure development company based in Boston. We've been around since 1975, developing projects over a variety of technologies, from natural gas combined cycle projects to biomass to solar and battery. Many projects we own and operate. Some we eventually sell. But we, in addition to all of that experience, we've developed two of the first community solar projects to actually come online in the state of Maine, which was sort of the precursor market to New Mexico. Many of the program goals and requirements are similar to Maine. So we think we're pretty well suited to developing these projects. Next slide. Thanks. So these are just two pictures of our projects in Maine, which are slightly smaller than what we're proposing for the Roswell site, but pretty similar. Next slide. These are just more of our projects. You can find all of this information on our website, emienergy.com, as well. Next slide. So I don't know, I won't dive too deeply into this, but as I think the commission knows, the state of New Mexico is developing a community solar program, allowing community solar developers to build solar projects and sell to the distribution grid and benefit local communities and ratepayers. So we will be participating in that request for proposal with this project and hoping to receive an allocation. So next slide. This is the project we've been talking about. So you've seen this. Next slide. This project should have very, very minimal impact on the local community. There will be some slight increase in traffic during construction, but once it's operating, very, very little. And then no water and sewer requirements. Next slide. And yeah, so the economic impacts, we will be creating jobs during construction, which in turn will relate to increased income for the surrounding area, increased tax receipts, discounted energy bills for local consumers, and decarbonizing the grid. Next slide. These are just some best management practices for construction and operation. Next slide. And then we are committed to safe and efficient decommissioning at the end of life, where we dismantle, demolish, and then safely dispose and recycle of the solar panels and any other equipment before stabilizing the site.
Mr. Gordon, what
Next
do you,
slide. Yes.
what do you anticipate, what's the life of the project, I guess, before you have to decommission it?
Yeah, minimum of 30 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so those are the slides. Happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Commissioners, anybody have any questions of Steve?
Yeah. I wanted to ask, when the project is decommissioned, do you provide a bond to the property owner, or how, what is that assurance?
I'm not looking at our lease right now, so our property owner is on. Patrick, do you, is on?
Yes, sir. Actually, this is related to the owner of the property, and a bond actually is in the lease.
It is in the lease. Okay, so there will be a lease provided prior to construction. Sorry, there will be a bond provided prior to construction.
I'm sorry, I didn't get any of that.
Sorry, sir. The answer is yes. We will be providing the property owner a bond prior to the start of construction.
Thank you. The other question, Mr. Chairman, there's an area adjacent to the highway there that provides a setback for the project. Is there any current use of that amount of land that's adjacent to the highway?
Chair Story, Commissioner Henderson, as far as I know, there's nothing planned for the commercial strip along the highway at this point, but we thought that was valuable in terms of commercial, and it's already zoned commercial, so staff recommended that the solar project not be fronting Second Street because it's not the highest and best use for something that's already zoned commercial.
And that, if and when will that happen? Will that property have to then be summary platted to break that out? I would assume, or is it the same property owner all the way? Can they still use it as two different uses in one plat, one landowner?
I would imagine that it would be replatted if someone comes forward that's interested in developing
'Cause
along
then
the
that way,
frontage.
that would also set the lines for the zoning too, in my opinion.
Correct.
Thank you.
If I could go ahead and insert here just real quick. When the project proponent came forward and we looked at it, the original design was to utilize the entire property. Again, Second Street, especially the proximity to the relief route there, is some of the potentially most valuable C2 GRT income producing property in the entire city. We didn't want to lose that entire availability. So taking a look at what was happening with some other properties, and we've gotten a lot of activity on Second Street moving further and further and further west. And a lot of it, especially in this proximity here, we were looking at how much depth do we really need if we want to put in a quick serve restaurant, or we want to put in something that would serve the traveling public, that would protect that and increase the GRT, increase the overall property value in the area without losing it completely. And after we looked at a couple of the other projects around here, we settled on 200 feet behind ultimate right-of-way. We're assuming that the NMDOT is going to ask for another 20 feet at some point in the future, because that would line up with the right-of-way on either side. So looking at what could be done within a 200-feet area, again, quick-serve restaurants, limited-use gas stations, convenience stores, all those things that would serve the traveling public in and around that area. So that was the thought behind it at that time. Now, we have not discussed the possibility of a replat. We are leaving that decision, of course, up to the property owner. Now, if I was the property owner and I was going to enter into a 25-year lease agreement on my property, I would absolutely plat off that section that's being leased. But that is a decision between the property owner and the lessee.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. We have here, Mr. Gordon, a request written in our agenda here that you want the array height to be 15 feet instead of 10. Can you explain that to us, please?
Sure. So that is to allow all options for panel technology. I'm not certain that we would go above 10 feet. However, panels continue to get, larger and more efficient. 15 feet would provide kind of a complete envelope. If the commission has an issue with that and wants us to stick with 10, that's certainly something we can live with. But 15 feet would kind of provide the largest possible envelope.
Okay, thank you. Meredith, do we have anything in our ordinances about the height?
Now, Mr. Chairman, the selection of 10 feet was done quite some time ago. Every project, every solar project that you've approved was based on, that had a consideration in it for aesthetics, what you see, what you can visualize from the outside looking in, okay? Knowing that it's not going to cost the developer that much more to build an 8-foot high screen wall as opposed to a standard 6-foot high screen wall, we felt that the occasional tilt of the solar panel peeking out 2 feet was reasonable. That request has been held up, and every other project that we, including the one you just approved about 15 minutes ago, has agreed to that 10-foot height limitation with an 8-foot perimeter screen fence that will essentially screen the project from visibility or from sight. Considering, and again, I've been sitting here and I'm looking at 15 feet, trying to figure out, if you look at that purple wall behind you, as best I can tell, I'm assuming those are 8-foot flagpoles. You got about 3 foot. That's 11 feet behind you. Okay, but the screen fence will only go up to the 8-foot height. We add another 4 feet on top of that, and looking at the potential for hundreds of panels moving. And again, we're kind of defeating the purpose of the screening from the public view. And you do have Enchanted Hills not that far away from here.
And so, Commission, we weren't aware of that context. We're fine with 10 feet. I withdraw that request.
Okay. Any other questions?
He's withdrawing the
Right,
request.
he's withdrawing his request for
Thank you.
the 15-foot. Any questions? Mr. Gordon? From the commission? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being online. Anybody else wish to speak in favor of that? Our two engineers in the audience, you got anything to add to any of this?
Only if there are questions for the environmental.
That's what you guys do, is the environmental? Any rattlesnakes out there?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Scorpions, rattlesnakes, I'm sure they're going to be. Any other questions? Anyone else wish to speak in favor of case 22-038? Being none, is there anybody wishing to speak against case 22-038? Anybody against it? Being none, I would accept a motion.
Go ahead, Ken.
Mr. Chairman, based on the land use and zoning considerations, finding of facts surrounding land uses and regulations established in the zoning ordinance and subdivision code, I make a motion to approve zoning case 22-038 in the R3 residential zoning district to construct and operate a community solar facility with the inclusion of the draft conditions of approval in Exhibit F.
Second.
We have a motion by James and a second by Saul to approve case number 22-038. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you. Case passes. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for having us.
You guys were kind of awful gabby back there, you know, we appreciate it if you be kind of quiet and stuff.
We'll try to do better.
Yeah, next time, remember that, will you please? Other business, moving on, we have 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting schedule. Meredith?
Good evening. Chair Story, Commissioners. The city clerk has asked us to discuss and put together a schedule for next year. So keeping with the the fourth Tuesday at 6 o'clock PM, and I apologize on your written schedule here that I have 6:30 written down on 2022 for December 20th and November 29th. It should have been 6 o'clock. So 6 o'clock PM, and Kevin, hopefully we'll be over in our new place sometime next year.
Just let us know.
We are hoping to be moving into at least doing a initial move with staff and everybody else sometime during December. Okay, we're very, very close, from what I understand, but I heard that several times, so take that with a grain of salt. When
So
we'll
there's-
actually be able to move the Planning and Zoning Commission over to our we have a beautiful, brand-new, very large conference room, and we'll be able to hold Planning and Zoning Commission meetings in the new Development Services Center. When that will take place is a function of how quickly that slow boat from China is moving over here with all of our electronics equipment. For that, you'll have to ask Jeff. But yeah, okay. Well, there you hear it. Sounds like it'll be sometime in the first quarter then we'll be starting to hold the meetings over at the Development Services Center, which will be, I think, nice for all of us.
Do you need anything from us, Meredith, or are you just wanting informational item?
Louis, do any other committees do a
Infrastructure
vote?
Committee, you vote on it,
Okay.
or a consensus? You guys good with the schedule?
Anybody got any comments on the schedule?
You need a motion?
You have a motion to approve the schedule?
I move to approve the schedule as presented.
Second?
We have a motion by Steve and a second by James to approve the tentative schedule for 2023 P and Z meetings. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. We will do that. Public comments? All you people out in the audience? Any announcements?
Just a couple of heads up. Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, all that good stuff. But looking into next year, giving you all a heads up, should be a very busy year for the Planning Division, the Planning Commission, and for the Community Development Department as a whole. Of course, last month you approved the conditional use permit, updates to the conditional use permits ordinance. That was approved by Legal Committee last week. It'll go to City Council in December for the first reading. It'll have to go to a second reading in January. But we're already moving on, looking at chapters 50, 52, and 60, which is our design development requirements, as well as the sign ordinance. We've been asked to move forward with working with Main Street Roswell. Those negotiations and those discussions have gone very well. Their professional services agreement should also be approved by the City Council next, December the 8th. After that, we will launch into I think the first real economic development and planning sessions that we've had with that particular organization. We're going to start off looking at a 10-year strategic plan, and then we're going to back it down. We'll be looking at updating the downtown master plan so that we can incorporate that back into the comprehensive plan. But beyond that, we've also got a couple of advocates on the City Council who are very passionate about the railroad district and want us to move forward with some master planning on that, and also the old Chihuahuita neighborhood. We may be looking at doing a neighborhood plan on that and a few other things. All of those things, of course, will have to come before you. You will be required to read them and vet them and ask lots of intelligent questions so that we can make an even better product for the people here. So it's going to be a busy year for all of us. So the sooner we get into the Development Services Center, the sooner I'll be happy.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
a number of years ago, we were pretty active in development over in Chihuahuita with roads and curbs, gutters, drainage. Is there any interest in following up on the CDBG program to provide funding for that or another low-income project?
The answer to that question is yes, we're already looking into it. And in fact, even today, I had a meeting with the SNMEDD, Council of Governments, and talking to them about, we've got a chicken and the egg problem. In order to avail ourselves of the CDBG grants, CDBG grants, you have to have someone that can find what we need and then write the grant, and then we have to have grant administrators. Right now, we're also very short-handed. However, the SNMEDD has got a new program. They actually have funding where they have a list of grant writers who are available to assist us. So all we need to do is locate the project, locate the information, work with their grant writers, and then once those grants are approved, they will also work with us to make sure that those grants are administered properly. So we've got a lot of movement on all ends right now. We're looking at, because that's, you brought up a couple of really good points here in the past few meetings, Commissioner Henderson. In our office, and I say ours by me and Meredith, Meredith has been very, very good at saying, look, we started working on this, and we did this, and we did this, and it's, if for lack of understanding and of course my lack of history here, it's almost like people get all excited about doing something, and it gets going, and then they get bored, or they get distracted, or something. There are so many half-complete projects and half-complete plans out there. So we have a couple of city council members, especially in Ward 1, that really want us to see to pull those things back off the shelf, dust them off, and start making things happen. In fact, we've got a community meeting over at the Boys and Girls Club. I believe is it this Friday or a week from Friday? It's a week from Friday. So on the 9th, 9 o'clock in the morning, it's a Chihuahuita community meeting, and everybody getting together. And of course, we had the big cleanup over there a week or two ago as well, where many, many tons of trash and junk. So we're making some inroads. We're working with the community, and it's going to be our job to follow up on the available grants for infrastructure improvements, for sidewalks, for safe streets to school. Probably by the time I get done talking to Lewis about a lot of this stuff, we'll probably want to be taking a look at that's the Hondo River that flows right through there, Lewis?
Yes.
Okay, so probably some Hondo River improvements, cleanup and everything else. And then there's also a really neat little bridge over the Hondo River that comes on, I can't remember the name of the street, but it's not wide enough for both pedestrian and other traffic. So we may be looking at the possibility of a pedestrian bridge at somewhere over there, so people in the Chihuahuita neighborhood can access the park that's just right across the river from where they live.
The first step on that community development block grant program is hearings to identify possible projects, and then of course the city council has to choose a project, and then your grant writing takes effect. So we just need to start the steps.
Yeah. And as soon as we are to a point, like I said, we just started the community outreach because the Grace Fresquez, Sergeant Grace Fresquez, she's of course been over there at Chihuahuita with the Neighborhood Watch program for quite some time. She's the one that's organizing a lot of this and getting the community together. The downfall of any project, of any plan, is a lack of support from the community itself. So we're starting at the very basic, the very beginning, and that's generating the community support, gaining their trust so they'll work with the city so that we'll actually be able to go in there and then identify this as an area in need, have the public hearings, and then, yes, you're absolutely correct, at that point move forward with the grant process and whatever infrastructure improvements we can make while we're simultaneously looking at some other housing grants and other things. So some of those older buildings can be upgraded, facade improvements, and livability improvements. But there's also some discussion about the possibility of finding some money for a community center. I mean, it's really the engagement we've had so far has been fun. And it really has been. We're getting a lot of good ideas and people flowing through there. We're going to have to talk, Louis and I are going to have to talk about Alameda running through there. I almost got run over by a couple of kids racing up Alameda through that, using Alameda instead of 2nd Street as a way to get from Garden over to, I guess that's Atkinson at the other end. So.
The other thing that needs to be in place for that is a budget item for the match. So if you're going to go after $500,000, you've got to have $50,000 in your budget for that match. So that needs to be in place.
Well, I know that, Louis, you've obtained some, in the past, some of these types of grants. And I know getting projects like this, even for the matching on the, is it the IDIC?
Yes, it's done CDBG. I'm just advising you that Steve used to be in charge of all the CDBG projects for about 10 years.
Okay.
So he knows that what he's saying is the truth, and just listen to Steve. He knows what he's talking about.
Anything else?
Okay. Nothing other than everybody's invited to the Main Street Nighttime Parade, Friday night, starting at 6 p.m., going up Main Street. So it's a parade of lights. We're going back to an evening parade. Santa Claus and the whole bit will be there, but don't be late. The parade's only going to take about 30 minutes. So if you're going to see Santa, that's the place to start. And then the morning after, we have the Christmas market and movie night right there on the courthouse lawn. So got a few things scheduled for the residents here this weekend. It's going to be fun.
Louis, got anything you want to say?
No, everything went smooth. I'm glad you guys, 4 of you showed up and we had a quorum and made it worth our trip over here.
Yeah, I just looked down. I had a text from Jesse a little while ago, and he was not feeling well. He says, I just started throwing up. I'm not going to make it. I said, good deal. Glad you didn't come. Mm-hmm. So, anything else? Meredith, you got anything? 6:58, we are adjourned.